Okay, let's get across today's headlines with Sky News senior political reporter Cam Reddin. Cam, great to see you as always. Now, Qantas, the new boss, has, well, made an appearance.
Yeah, she has indeed, Erin. Good evening to you. I think we've seen this week the first steps towards a bit of a reputation rebuild for Qantas. Under the new chief executive, Vanessa Hudson, we saw some bonuses withheld from Alan Joyce on his way out. We've also saw in its annual report this week, Qantas score customer satisfaction at a 0 out of 20, and that has a flow-on effect to executive pay. So there's quite a bit of introspection, if you like, about Qantas's standing in the community at the moment. The new chief executive, Vanessa Hudson, has been keen to get on the front foot. She picked up the phone earlier this week to the Transport Workers Union and its head, Michael Kaine, to offer a personal apology to those 1,700 workers who the High Court deemed were illegally sacked during the pandemic. And then today, the most overt example of that, getting on camera and directly apologising to Qantas customers and the community, promising to turn the ship of consumer sentiment around.
I know that we have let you down in many ways, and for that I am sorry. We haven't delivered the way we should have, and we've often been hard to deal with. We understand we need to earn your trust back, not with what we say, but what we do and how we behave.
And of course, Erin, there's that ongoing Senate inquiry, both into the Qatar Airways flight's decision and broadly competition in Australia's aviation sector. So, look, Qantas is, under the new chief executive, trying to get out on the front foot and reverse that ship of consumer sentiment for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a quote from Stephen Byron, who's the head of the Canberra airport, that was scathing, to put it politely. So yeah, that's fascinating, that Senate inquiry. What about William Tyrrell? Some news today. And Cam, this story, it's just, I think we almost forget how sad it is because it's been around for so long.
Yeah, well, we're almost 5 years into this inquest, Erin. It was commenced in early 2019. We know there's new hearings set for February and March in 2024. So we're already looking at least a 5-year inquest. Another coronial hearing today. And we learned at this hearing that New South Wales Police have requested advice from the Director of Public Prosecution in New South Wales about potential charges in this case. Now, look, there's a lot of maybes and coulds and what ifs and potentials about all of this. But the guts of it is New South Wales Police requesting advice about potential charges. That advice isn't due back until the new year. We know, Erin, this month we've passed 9 years since William Tyrrell's disappearance. It was September 2014. Here we are in 2023. Throughout all that time, nobody has been charged. The foster parents of William Tyrrell were in appearance. They were there at this court hearing today, and they've, of course, all the way through denied any involvement in his disappearance. But as you say, very sad and still no answers 9 years on.
Yeah, it is indeed. Bushfire season, funnily enough, I'd booked in, we had a week off radio. My partner and I were meant to go to the snow. That melted with the heat wave this week. We then went to the Central Coast instead, and driving through some of the beautiful bushland, it was so dry along the edges, and we both said it's ripe for the picking for fires. You've had some briefings today. What are they saying?
Yeah, they're starting already, Erin. We had a big meeting today of many of the emergency management authorities, as well as some of the ministers here in Canberra. There'll be a major bushfire summit in Canberra next week involving a whole range of authorities. And the point was made today that in previous years, you might have just seen the emergency management's basics, the fireys, the police, the ambos, and maybe some local government get their resources together. But the phrase that I think your viewers are going to hear a lot more of throughout summer is a whole of society approach. The message today is that it's not simply on the emergency management authorities to keep people safe. We're talking about charitable groups, about industry, about tourism operators and tourism groups having an awareness of what's going on and being prepared for the worst. And I suppose there's a flow-on effect to that, Erin. Earlier this year, your viewers will know, the government put out this document, the Defence Strategic Review, which explicitly stated that the ADF is simply not prepared. It's not designed to be the break glass in case of emergency, all the time response for the worst case bushfires. Yes, it will still continue to be used in the event of a worst case scenario, last resort, but Australia doesn't have a civilian disaster response agency. And with the ADF not designed to be a civilian disaster response agency, the question is, if we continue to have more last resort scenarios that we need to resort to the ADF for support, how sustainable is that?
Yeah.
So I think that's a question going forward as to exactly what that's going to look like.
I think the state of the world at the moment, their focus should be elsewhere, but I can also understand that when there's a disaster here and people need help and there's nowhere else to turn, it's a real tough one. The Yes campaign, MC Hammer. Now, I'm not pretending to be cool on any level, Cam. I'm not. My three favourite artists are Billy Joel, Rod Stewart and Meatloaf. So MC Hammer doesn't do much for me. What about you? You're young and hip. Does he appeal to you?
Oh, I don't know about that. Look, I'm an Oasis tragic, Erin, and I haven't heard the Gallagher brothers chirp up on what they think about the voice. It reminds me of when Shaquille O'Neal trotted out on stage next to Anthony Albanese to give us a wave, endorse the voice, and then wandered on. I did note, though, that big hit you played at the top of the program, "You Can't Touch This." It kind of sounds more like an anthem for the No campaign, but anyway, it was released in 1990, Erin. 1990. 33 years ago. I think that's 9 years before our last referendum, 6 years before I was born. So how
you're
many
bragging now, Cam.
Going to swing, I don't know.
You are bragging now. I actually
I'm still stuck in the 90s.
I did a sit down with Anthony Albanese for Sky actually on the day that Shaq was there, and I watched that from afar, and it was entertaining to say the least. As have you been, Cam. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Erin, as always.